You're staring at a pile of specs on a page and wondering if any of this actually matters for the way you game, stream, or just sit down after a long day and want something that actually works. I get it, you don't want to drop a couple $1,000s on a laptop that feels great on paper but ends up being a daily disappointment. The biggest fear is that the machine you pick will either choke on the games you love or sit there gathering dust because it's too heavy, noisy, or just plain impractical for the life you lead. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's break down the Alienware M15 R6 the way a real-world user would think about it, not the way a spec sheet talks. First off, the 15.6-inch 360Hz display is a clear signal that this machine is aimed at competitive gamers who need every frame rendered instantly. If you're the type who plays fast-paced shooters like Valorant or Apex Legends and you've already noticed the difference between 144Hz and 240Hz, you'll feel that extra smoothness immediately. The 1 millisecond response time eliminates ghosting, so your crosshair snaps into place the exact moment you click. That said, if you're mostly into slower-paced RPGs, strategy titles, or just watching movies, you probably won't notice the difference enough to justify the premium you're paying for that refresh rate. The heart of the laptop is the 11th Gen Intel Core i7-11800H paired with an RTX 3070 and 32GB of DDR4 RAM. In practice, this means you can push most AAA titles at 1080p with ultra settings and still keep a comfortable frame rate well above 60 frames per second. I've seen streams where creators run Cyberpunk 2077 on ultra, ray-traced settings, and the frame count hovers around 7080 frames per second. That's more than enough for smooth gameplay and leaves headroom for recording or streaming at 1080p without choking the GPU. The 1TB SSD also means you won't spend a minute waiting for a level to load, and you have plenty of room for a library of games, a few video editing projects, and your media files. Now, the thing that separates the M15 R6 from a generic high-end laptop is Alienware's advanced cooling. It's a dual-fan system with vapor chamber technology that keeps the CPU and GPU temperatures in check during marathon sessions. In real usage, you'll notice that after an hour of intense gameplay the fans spin up, but they don't scream like a cheap gaming notebook. The acoustic profile is still audible, especially when you're in a quiet room, but it's not the kind of whine that makes you want to mute the game just to hear yourself think. If you plan to game in a shared living space or a small apartment, that fan noise is something to keep in mind. Battery life is where the trade-off shows up most clearly. At 86 where battery in a machine that can pull upwards of 200 W under load means you'll get roughly 2 to 3 hours of gaming unplugged, maybe a bit more if you're just browsing or doing light work. That's typical for a laptop in this performance tier, but it does make the M15 R6 a plug-in device for most gamers. If you need a machine that can survive a full workday without an outlet, or you travel a lot and can't lug a power brick everywhere, this isn't the best fit. On the flip side, if you already have a decent desk setup at home and you're looking for a portable powerhouse you can take to a friend's house or a LAN party, the battery is just a secondary concern. Weight and dimensions are also worth mentioning. At about 5.5 pounds and a thickness close to 0.9 inches, the M15 R6 feels solid, but it's not something you'll want to carry around all day. I've seen people use it on coffee shop tables for a few hours, but after that the heft starts to add up. If your daily commute involves a crowded subway and you need to toss a laptop into a backpack, you might feel the strain after a week or two. For a dedicated gaming rig that you'll mostly keep on a desk and occasionally move, the size and weight are acceptable. Who should definitely consider this machine? If you're a serious competitive gamer who values ultra-high refresh rates, you already have a decent monitor that can match 360 Hz, and you want a laptop that can keep pace with a desktop-class GPU, the M15 R6 checks the boxes. It also makes sense for content creators who need the extra RAM and fast SSD for editing 1080p footage while still being able to play games on the side. The future-proof feel comes from having 32GB of RAM. You won't be scrambling to upgrade for at least a couple of years. Who should skip it? Casual gamers who mainly play indie titles, or people whose primary need is long battery life for work-related tasks, will find the price tag hard to justify. The same goes for anyone who prioritizes a quiet environment while the cooling system is decent. It's not silent, and you'll still hear